what do you think about this obsession of people now being CEO or COO or whoever, whatever title they want to bring? Does it even make sense?
Well, yeah, I think that CEO, probably the only title that really matters at the beginning stages is who's the CEO, because internally, externally, that should establish the authority and leadership. I think that beyond that, there's only one circumstance where I think titles matter materially, and that is whether or not you are selling to people who care.
Yes.
I think that both, like, so, you know, I know like Expodoc, they're a bunch of 20-year-olds, right? So and selling into a very traditional industry. So I think having a title when you're sitting across the CEO of a shipping company or a logistics company, that matters in that transaction. So it, you know, in that instance, the titles do matter. I think that when we're selling to conglomerate heads in Indonesia's Kalibrr, the title of like who you are sitting across and who you are
needs to match,
right? So I think that in that case, like when you're selling, that's probably the only material time.
Okay.
No, they're in the early stages, titles are pretty much crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you get to do everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
There's no job description for a co-founder. I mean,
you know, it's a bad sign already.
Yeah.
If at the early stages, someone is not willing to roll up their sleeves and not clean the freaking door or clean the floor and do the stuff that, you know, co-founders do, because nobody can do that, right?
I mean, like I do filing. I send out, you know, the taxes. I mean, like
I vacuum the studio. Okay.
Yeah, if it's not, you know, and I guess it is. I would say, subjectively speaking, people who care about titles, I'll understand
Red flag.
Why, right? I'm like, why do you care about it? And then, it's a red flag for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not going to be a fit with the, again, founder market fit. I like calling it that, right? Are you even the right founder to do this? Because at the end of the day, one of the biggest things that founders need to combat, and this never goes, it just evolves in a certain way, is our own insecurity.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of how sometimes we are driven to make the wrong decisions are fueled because of our own insecurity, whatever that might be. And this is just real talk. I still have my own insecurities now. I've learned how to cope with them, but I try to balance it out by being a good teammate. That who am I prioritizing? Is it me and my ego, or is it my team's well-being? Right. So,
I think that's a really honest and I think dead-on kind of observation. I mean, I think that when I have to check myself, like when I'm very emotional about a decision, like when I'm angry, the one discipline that I've developed is I always take a step back if I feel any emotion.
Sleep on it.
And just take a step back. Why am I feeling this way? You know, what are the options here? Is this going to, you know, I think that if you make decisions to win, if you are trying to prove someone wrong, that's your own red flag for your own self. And I think those are the worst decisions I've ever made.
Yeah.
Where my ego's at threat when I'm trying to win, when I'm trying to, you know, like to your point, I mean, that's where humility comes in. Humility is kind of like what gives you stability. And to say, like, am I looking at the situation from all angles rather than from my emotional state? Absolutely.
And guys, I'll just to double down on the titles, right? A CEO in a startup is a different. Actually, a founder in a startup and a CEO are two different jobs. And we'll talk about this in a different founders only episode. What's the difference between a CEO and a founder? At the start, you're really just a founder. But if you're going to be labeling yourself CEO, founder, there's three jobs that will be constant. I don't care what your startup is doing. Number one, you need to make sure you have enough resources, whether it's funding, whether it's sales, whatever. You need to have gas in the damn tank.
Right.
Number two, you need to set the North Star. Where the hell are we going?
Exactly.
Right? You're going to be the oar, you're going to be the rudder, whatever the hell that be. You're leading this team to a direction that only you can see. You're the visionary. And lastly, two more, my bad. Number three, you need to get the right people in the damn boat. Who are you going with? Because you can't do this alone. There's no such thing as solopreneur in a startup life. And the best teams that go far are the ones that have a good co-founding team. Because if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And lastly, this is the constant job. I don't care what size your company is. You are chief obstacle remover.
That's great.
I don't care what y'all doing. But if somebody's stuck somewhere, whether it's just a freaking intern and it affects your bottom line, you gotta go down and zoom in and remove that. That's you as founder, CEO of a startup.
That is the job description.
Exactly. Now, if you're not willing to do that, take a step back. Yeah. Do you really want to be a founder, CEO? Because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong by being Robin.
Yeah.
There are startups that thrive in the Philippines and overseas.
Yeah.
Not because they have a great CEO. It's because they have an amazing Robin. They have an amazing guy that's willing to cover for the weakness of their CEO and everyone else we had. The glue person. For us in P&A, I've had her ever since in any startup. So it started out with guest list, party file. She was my intern. And it became Chatbot PH. She was my head of operations. Now she's still our head of operations. Her name is Ivy Barnachea. I cannot do any startup. Yeah, I look good because I have Ivy behind me every single time. But flowers to you. You are the real MVP because I'm heavily flawed. I can run, but dude, I'll leave a lot of crap along the way, and Ivy keeps me in tow in that point.
I've been Robin for most of my career. I was chief of staff for a politician before I jumped into tech. I was the number 2 at Kalibrr. So my job description is being, there's the head and then there's the neck. I was always the neck.
What's it like to become a good Robin? Because again, you don't have to be CEO.
Right.
It's equally as important. But what's a good Robin like?
So I think that let me tell. Precondition. When I was at Kalibrr, even though Paul and I had disagreements at times, major ones at some points, no one ever knew when we disagreed, right? And I think that that's incredibly important because that gap, that 1-inch gap between number 1 and number 2, will turn into a chasm in the organization.
Absolutely.
And it gives space for politics to happen, advocacy for one direction or another. So the kind of baseline commitment that a number 2 has to make in an organization is there's absolutely no space between 1 or 2 publicly. A large part of this comes down to what is the complementary skill set. Paul at Kalibrr was the face of the organization. I was the ass. So he was responsible for externally selling, getting investors excited. Yeah. My job was to sit in the office, build the team, to set the internal organization. Like the peculiar thing about Kalibrr is that we're building a company with a very small nascent ecosystem. So we had to train our engineers, our data scientists, our AI engineers, our designers. So a large part of my job was building the systems to both mentor and get the training needed to take high potential people into somebody who can be contribute as an IC, eventually become a people lead or senior IC. So I was responsible for building the organization primarily and enabling those who can actually build the product.
Thank you so much for watching Hustleshare on YouTube. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel to get more content like this. And to get the full audio episodes of Hustleshare and Founders Only, subscribe to our podcasts at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.